Welcome again to the Hortons Talk. I'm Tracy and this is my gorgeous husband Paul.
Hey guys.
Today we want to talk about something that is near and dear to our hearts because it has actually struck home to us just recently, and that is stress. Stress is one thing that we can guarantee every single one of us is going to suffer. And you think you're invincible, you think it'll never happen to you, and then you catch yourself and realise that it has. And that's what occurred to me just recently in my life. I found myself, not so long ago actually, in a park, crying my eyes out, feeling very alone, ended up vomiting, and sitting there on my own in a world where I felt so alone, and truly I have this incredible network of family and friends all around me. I realised that my body was talking to me, and when I stopped and understood that I'd hit a pinnacle of stress, I realised that I needed to make some changes, and it was incredible how easily I could make them and how well my body responded. And today we want to share from our hearts, because we live in a world where we see this happening to a lot of people. And when it comes to home, it's a bit of a wake-up call.
Definitely. Often, especially as married couples, you marry someone quite different, opposite to you. So for all of us, with our personalities, we handle or get into stress. What makes us get into stress is different from one another. And then, of course, the ways of overcoming that needs to be done differently in each personality as well. So there is that aspect of understanding our personality to who we are, what does stress us out, and what gets us to that place.
For sure. And I think let's just demystify stress for a minute, because stress is your body's reaction to something that you need to address. And it releases a chemical called cortisol, which is a steroid hormone, and it makes you get up and go. It makes you get up and do stuff. So it's actually a good thing when you're under good stress. It helps get you stuff done at work on time, helps the mum of an autistic child cope with her day, helps the mum of a new baby that had to go to work after being up all night cope, helps a father who's worked all day and then has to build a camper van because the camping holiday is coming up. You know, all this good stress is great. But we also have bad stress, which is when the credit cards are due and we've overspent, when we lose somebody, when we have a death in the family, when somebody leaves us, when we have a breakup. And either good or bad, stress is okay until it's prolonged. And when it comes under a long amount of time, or several of them carry on together, that's when you're really in trouble.
And you only have to do a school drop-off to discover how stressed people are.
It's true.
Behind the wheels of their cars, get on the motorway, or the car park, they now call it, on the Gold Coast. But it's incredible the stress that comes into our lives just in the simplicity of the day-to-day things that we do. And in some of the Australian statistics of stress and mental health and depression, they say that 2 out of 4 people in Australia, some sites say 1 out of 4, some say 2 out of 4, but there's a tremendous amount of people, 50% of people that we come in contact, whether it's in the grocery store, waiting in a line, you can just tell all of the time people are living in this absolute place of stress.
It's true. And you know, we're going to be doing, this is a 2-part series, so in the next series we're going to talk about how to overcome it. Because you know, a lot of this time when your cortisol level is high, you crave things like V drinks, you crave high sugar things, and that's just adding to all of the problem. And one of the things I found most amazing, Paul, is that the highest rate of people affected by stress are our millennials. Incredible. And they're mostly affected by financial stress. And yet, when you look at YouTube statistics, the most watched YouTube videos are millennials watching other millennials and what they've bought. And that shows me 2 things. It shows me that we don't actually understand stress, and we don't give it the credit it deserves. Because otherwise we would be screaming at how to address this. But the consumers, the advertisers, the people that make all the products, they're loving it.
Definitely.
They are loving this.
Definitely.
Even though our millennials are losing sleep at night about how to pay for the credit card. They're selling into them like nothing on earth.
And yet, in this millennial generation that we're in, they're really the most sort of talented and gifted, and
Absolutely.
with the resources that are at their fingertips than any other generation that's been on the planet. If we think of a generation, mainly baby boomers, that went through a war or the Great Depression, then into the Vietnam War. Back then there wasn't the stress that there is now today, and I think it becomes an even greater highlighted why this is happening is with so much more that we have in our hands, with the technology that we have, with our phones, our tablets, our computers, that we're doing more in a day. As Tracy said earlier, we're going to be looking at overcoming stress in the next video that we do, so we can talk more about with each personality how that can function and work, so that we're people who understand, because we all get stressed.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
No one's mastered a life of living in a lifestyle that can be so stress-free or stressless, unless you're living on an island on your own somewhere.
We're living on a stressed planet now.
Totally.
You know, the planet's stressed. And I think the interesting thing is that the baby boomers were the least amount of stressed people. But I realised something. I realised that we haven't, and that's why we wanted to do this, was because I realised that the millennials are going into a stage in their life where they're getting stressed really young, but they don't know how to cope with it. And that was what happened to me, because I come from this family that didn't teach me anything. I didn't know how to cope with stress. And so I had a lot of good stress happen in my life recently, and then I had some bad stress topple on top of it, and then all of a sudden I was in that park. And all of a sudden my body was saying, hang on, you can't do much more until you address some stuff, because your cortisol and your adrenal glands, they're low. They're really low. And if you keep going, something crazy is going to happen, like you're going to faint at the wheel of the car or something like that. And that's the incredible thing about stress, is that most of us are not educated at all about how to see the signs of it or how to deal with it. And, you know, and my family, they were beautiful about it. They rallied really quickly because they hadn't seen mum be like that for a while. You know, I had 12 hours where I was just so teary and touchy. And I'm glad that we were informed. I'm glad that we could talk about it. But, you know, I fear for people that live on their own at that state. You know, if I'd been on my own, no children, no husband, no friends, I would have gone straight to the doctor and been medicated. That's just the truth.
And then the next greatest part that we are dealing with within society, which is the cause of where stress starts, is mental health, is depression,
Sure.
and that blocks up our whole medical system. You only have to go to a hospital, and we've been there a couple of times in the last month with a couple of granddaughters that have broken a foot and done various other things. You only have to go to our medical departments to discover how many people, and even the local GPs, of how busy they are, because people have got all sorts of things going on and wrong in their bodies, and again, that's just purely caused by stress.
Because when your cortisol is low and when your stress is really high in your body, it actually activates and reduces your immune system. So literally, it makes you sick. You know, Paul and I believe with all of our heart that we are living in a beautiful planet and a beautiful time in history. And the reason we're bringing these videos to you is to make you think, is to make you question, to make you have that conversation with your family and friends. Because I guarantee you, statistics or not, just from what we know of people, at least 2 out of 4 of you that are watching this will have the symptoms, the signs, or the behaviours of stress. And we want you to live free of that. So we hope you've enjoyed this. We love you.
See you guys.